It was supposed to be another hearing, another routine day for the Public Safety Committee of Riverton County. A few reports, some numbers, maybe a statement or two from grieving families. But that morning, no one in that room could have prepared for what they were about to hear. A father, broken, furious, and fearless, walked to the microphone. His name, Michael Fenandez. His daughter, Casandra. His mission, to make sure no one ever forgot her name again. He leans toward the microphone, his voice trembling, part pain, part restrained rage. And the first thing he says isn't about himself. It isn't even about Casandra. Michael, archival audio. How many of you here have kids? I'm just curious. Committee members shifting uncomfortably. A few nod. A few look down. He lets the silence hang, long enough for the words to sting. Michael continued, here's what I need you to do. When I tell you this story, think about your kids. Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them and drag her out of bed, naked, forcing her on her knees, hands over her head, begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. The room freezes. You can hear the chair creak as someone shifts, just to break the weight in the air. Michael, voice cracking. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. He pauses. His jaw tightens. His hand clenches the desk. Then, with a painful exclamation, bang, dead, gone. Why? Because Phillips White Diago, who was arrested 39 goddamn times, 25 felonies, was on the street. Cut to archival news footage, headlines flashing. Repeat offender arrested again. Riverton County Justice under fire. Michael's voice breaks, but doesn't waver. He's reading from no notes. He's speaking straight from memory, from the trauma burned into his chest. How about that? He says. How good are we doing for our families? How good are you doing for your kids? In that moment, you can feel the shock ripple through the room. Reporters lower their cameras just to listen. He should have been in jail for over 140 years for all the crimes he committed. You know how much time he spent in prison? A little over 600 days in 10 years. He's 30 years old. He's been committing 2.65 crimes a year since he was 15, but nobody could figure out that he couldn't be rehabilitated. He lets out a shaky laugh, not out of humor, but disbelief. All we had to do, he continues, was put him in prison to see if he could be rehabilitated. Isn't that the idea of prison? But no. Then he looks directly into the eyes of the state representative sitting across from him, a man named Dom Willise. And I haven't heard a damn word from Dom Willise in 4 months. Not one. His biggest concern was that he was pissed off about my interview and how I made him look on CNB News with Fred Foster. He slams his palm down on the desk. The sound echoes through the room. How pathetic is that? At that point, Michael's voice isn't just grief, it's indictment. Every sentence a bullet aimed at a system that failed his daughter. He's no longer a father begging for justice. He's a prosecutor in his own right. We're letting our 22-year-old kids visit friends. That's all she ever wanted to do. Visit friends. And she was executed while on her knees, begging for her life. Cut to photo montage. Casandra smiling in graduation gown, her arm around her mother. A candlelight vigil. Flowers outside a small white house. Casandra Fenandez, 22, college senior. A small-town girl from Riverton with a big heart and dreams of teaching 3rd grade. She wasn't at a club that night. She wasn't doing drugs or breaking curfew. She was simply visiting a friend after class, something she did every Thursday. But on April 14th, 2024, that friend's house became a crime scene. Michael's voice shakes when he says her name. Michael. Her name's Casandra Fenandez, not Irene, not some girl in a statistic report. And you will not forget her. I promise you, he leans closer into the mic. You will be sick and tired of my face and my voice until this gets fixed. I'll fight until my last breath for my daughter. You need to fight for the rest of our children, the rest of the innocents, and stop protecting the people that keep taking them from us. You could feel the electricity in the air that morning. Reporters later described it as the moment the room stopped breathing. Michael, please, he says, you have the power. We put you in power to do what you have to do. We're asking you, we're begging you to stop these 39 crimes in 10 years, 25 felonies. Can anybody explain to me how he could possibly be on the street? How? He sits back, exhaling. I could sit down in a room and explain how it failed. How Riverton failed Casandra. How the lack of communication killed her. He stares straight ahead. What y'all did, he says quietly. You woke up a beast. You pissed off the wrong daddy. Cut to B-roll. Courtroom door closing, echoing footsteps in a hallway, slow fade to black. When Michael stood up and walked out, the committee didn't clap. They didn't even move. But the clip, that 6-minute monologue, would explode online within hours. By noon, it had over 2 million views. By evening, 10. And suddenly, everyone knew his name. But the more the public learned about Casandra's death, the more disturbing the truth became. Riverton wasn't a dangerous town. It was the kind of place where people left their cars unlocked and waved to their neighbors. But behind the quiet streets and the oak-lined yards, there was a growing problem. A backlog of repeat offenders slipping through cracks in a broken system. Phillips White Diago was the perfect example. 39 arrests, 25 felony charges, and yet he was free, released just 3 months before Casandra's death. His record read like a rap sheet out of a movie. Burglary, assault, fraud, armed robbery, domestic abuse. Each time, probation or reduced sentencing. Why? Because Riverton's court system was drowning. Cases delayed, evidence mishandled, prosecutors overworked, judges desperate to move cases through, and Diago knew it. He learned how to play the system, how to appear remorseful, how to cry on cue. He would sit in front of a parole board, eyes lowered, saying all the right things. I'm turning my life around. I found faith. I'm helping my mother. And somehow it worked. He was out. Again. And 3 weeks later, Casandra crossed his path. The night of April 14th began like any other. Casandra had dinner with her roommates, watched a movie, then decided to visit her old high school friend Allison, who lived about 20 minutes away near the edge of town. Security cameras show her arriving at 8:47 p.m., smiling, carrying a small box of cupcakes, a belated birthday surprise. They talked for hours about life, about her plans to apply for a teaching internship in Charleston. Around midnight, she told Allison she'd stay the night since it was raining heavily outside. Nothing unusual, no sense of danger. Sometime after 3 a.m., Allison remembers hearing a noise downstairs. A door creaked, faint but distinct. She assumed it was the wind. She didn't know that someone had pried open the side door. Phillips Diago had been watching the house for days. According to police reports, he'd met Allison briefly at a bar weeks earlier. When she mentioned on social media she lived alone, Diago saw an opportunity. He didn't know Casandra would be there. He came for Allison. But when he entered the guest room and saw a girl sleeping, someone he didn't recognize, he panicked. What happened next? Investigators pieced together from DNA evidence, fingerprints, and a single terrified voicemail. Casandra left her father at 3:27 a.m. A muffled scream, a crash, then the sound of pleading, and then silence. Her body was found hours later in the guest room. 7 hours after she died, Allison discovered her. Michael never listened to that voicemail. He couldn't. He said hearing her voice, knowing she called him in her final moments, would destroy him. But investigators did, and that voicemail became the turning point in proving Diago's guilt. Still, what enraged Michael most wasn't just the murder. It was what came after. When police accessed Cassandra's debit card, they discovered Diago had used it within an hour of the crime, buying cigarettes, gas, even a burger meal at a fast food joint on Route 29. And the kicker? When investigators pulled the CCTV footage, they didn't even need facial recognition. They knew exactly who he was. He'd been arrested so many times, his face was practically on file in every precinct within 50 miles. Pathetic, Michael called it. Absolutely pathetic that I'm here today, he told the committee, and he was right. The arrest came quickly. A state task force tracked Diago to a motel outside Greenville 2 days later. He surrendered without resistance. But justice wasn't immediate. The state's legal backlog meant it would take nearly a year before Diago's trial even began. Meanwhile, Michael was reliving his daughter's death in every interview, every post, every sleepless night. And the more he spoke out, the more he uncovered. Emails, warnings, reports ignored. Cassandra's case wasn't an isolated failure, it was part of a pattern. In the previous year alone, Riverton had released 12 repeat offenders early on probation. 9 of them reoffended within 6 months. The system was collapsing quietly until Michael forced it into the light. News clips overlapping. News anchor: the father of slain Riverton student Casandra Fenandez is calling for reform after discovering her killer had been released early. Despite multiple violent offenses, Michael, clip: this isn't just about my daughter. This is about every parent who thinks their kid's safe. They're not. But while Michael was shaking the state awake, something darker was brewing behind the scenes. People inside the courthouse began whispering that maybe Diago's early release wasn't just negligence. Maybe someone pushed it through. Rumors pointed to a probation officer who'd taken payments from repeat offenders to lose paperwork or expedite parole hearings. No one wanted to believe it until Michael received an anonymous email. It was short, 2 sentences. He wasn't supposed to be free. Check case 14-387. Look at the signature. He forwarded it to a journalist, Fred Foster from CNB News, the same one who interviewed him days earlier. Together, they started digging. The signature belonged to a probation board clerk named Janet Huxley. But here's the thing. Janet had been on leave the day that approval was stamped. Someone had forged her name. When investigators checked the system logs, they found that the approval came from a different user account, one registered to Deputy Director Dom Willise. Yes, the same Dom Willise Michael had called out in the hearing. The investigation went quiet for months after that. No one wanted to touch it. And then Michael got a phone call. A private number, a voice he didn't recognize. "Stop talking. You don't know what you're stepping into." That's where the story begins to twist. Because as much as this was about Casandra's murder, it was also about a cover-up, a web of favors, forged signatures, and silenced witnesses. Michael had lost his daughter, but he was about to lose his peace too. He told reporters later, "They think I'm just a grieving dad. They have no idea what I found." And when he said that, he meant it. Because what he discovered next, in his daughter's phone, would change everything. A hidden folder, one message, and a photo time-stamped just hours before her death, showing Casandra with someone she was never supposed to meet. Pause. Her phone log would reveal a name, the last person she texted, the last person she trusted